The ketchup bottle fell and rolled across the floor like it had a mind. Jamie laughed for a second, bit into his burger, and then the laugh stopped. His mouth moved but no sound came out. The fries in his hand went cold. Then, very slowly, Jamie slid off the booth and his legs were gone, just empty air where his knees should be. I reached for him and my fingers closed on warm leather, and nothing else. Jamie's jacket fell into my lap like a puppet with its strings cut. The drive-through speaker that had squealed all night hissed, "Welcome back," in a voice that sounded like every old radio in town. The lights blinked once, twice, and the clown sign outside smiled with its eyes closed. People in the restaurant kept eating like they could not see. I screamed, but my voice sounded far away. Then the soda machine began to pour out black ice that smelled like rain on metal. I grabbed the counter, and the world tilted. The door wouldn't open. Everything went quiet except for the speaker, and it said, "We are saving your seat." I don't know how long I stayed there. I only know I never finished my fries. Days before that night, the Midnight Munch on Willow Avenue was just a place we passed after soccer practice. It had a big red roof and a goofy mascot and a poster named Mr. Chew. Mom liked the chicken nuggets, Marcus liked the fries, and Jamie swore their shakes were magic. I thought magic meant extra sugar. The first time I saw the sign flicker, I thought it was old wiring. The second time, Jamie said the letters spelled his name for a second and then switched back to Midnight Munch. We joked about it, and put our phones on the table and told spooky stories while we waited for burgers. Jamie dared me to try the special sauce. "It's not a real place until you do the sauce test," he said and smacked his lips. I dipped a fry and tasted warm, salty, and a tiny taste that made my teeth itch like when you hear a bad song stuck in your head. The manager, Mr. Heller, had bright white hair and a laugh that shook his shoulders. He wore a cap with the clown logo, and waved at everyone like he loved them. Sometimes he disappeared into the kitchen, and the cooks looked at us like we were the strangest thing they'd seen all day. The staff clocked in on a machine that beeped like a clock tower, but at night the clock would show the same minute for 3 minutes in a row. The playground outside had a small plastic slide and a swing that creaked even when no wind blew. Marcus said he once saw a shadow swing higher than a boy could push it. We thought these were silly things. We were kids. We still believed in leftover fries, not in bad luck. On the Wednesday we went back after the big soccer win. The parking lot was full of cars. The neon sign hummed and made the air taste like pennies. We sat in the booth by the window and watched a man in a hat walk in like he already knew all the orders. The music was a slow, old tune that made my thumbs feel cold. A little girl in a birthday hat stared out at the street and smiled without moving her lips. The deep fryer sounded like distant thunder. Jamie took a big bite of his burger, and that's when the first thing happened. The ketchup rolled, the laugh stopped, and his legs were gone. I thought I was dreaming. I thought the movie theater light from outside had tricked me. I thought 1,000 small things. Then the speaker whispered again, but this time it used my name, like it had been waiting. The clown poster blinked. The man in the hat walked toward the counter with shoes that made no sound, and every phone in the place went dark at once. I tried the door. It would not open. The lights grew colder, and the sound of the fryer slowed down until it sounded like someone breathing through a straw. People around us chewed like nothing was wrong. Mr. Heller smiled too wide. The little girl in the hat turned her head the wrong way to look at me. I felt something press on my back like a hand, but when I peeked, nobody was there. The speaker crackled and said, "Table 3, it's time." The kitchen door swung open by itself. A shadow slipped out and walked toward our booth. My heart hammered so loud I thought the floor would break. The shadow paused, and I could see a shape like a face tilt toward me, like a plate turned on its side. Then, with a sound like a sip of thick syrup, the shadow reached for the fries on the table and everything in the restaurant stopped breathing. For a long second, the whole restaurant stayed frozen, like someone had pressed pause on the world. The shadow leaned over our table, hovering right above the fries. It didn't look like smoke or a person. It looked more like darkness pretending to have a shape. When it reached toward the tray, The air got colder, enough to make my breath show even though it wasn't winter. I stared at the shadow's hand, if you could even call it a hand, and right before it touched the fries the lights snapped back on. Not bright, but enough to make the shadow pull away, almost like it didn't want to be seen in the glow. Then it slid back toward the kitchen door without a sound. My heartbeat was loud in my ears. I thought about yelling for help, but everyone in the restaurant acted normal again, eating like nothing at all had happened. A little boy dipped his nugget into sauce. A woman stirred her drink. Mr. Heller folded napkins like he always did. But something was different. The air wasn't just cold, now it felt tight, like the walls were breathing very slowly. I turned back to where Jamie had been. His jacket was still in my lap, but he was gone. All the fear in my chest got sharper. I looked at Marcus, and he looked back at me, his eyes wide like two full moons. "We need to get help," he whispered. His voice shook. Not loud, not panicked, just scared in a quiet way that made me feel even worse. We tried the door again. Nothing. It didn't just feel locked, it felt like the whole building was holding it shut. And then the soda machine made that low gurgling sound again, the one that had poured out black ice earlier. But this time, when the machine rumbled, the clown mascot poster on the wall changed. Not the whole picture, just its eyes. They weren't round anymore. They were turned slightly, looking right at us. My skin felt too small for my body. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Look! Look over there!" The man in the hat, the one who walked in earlier, was standing by the counter. Only now he was facing us. His face had no expression at all. Not happy. Not angry. Just nothing. He lifted one slow hand and pointed toward the bathroom hallway. Not fast. Not sudden. Just steady, like he'd been waiting for us to notice. I shook my head. I didn't want to go anywhere near that hallway. It was dark even though the ceiling lights were on. But the man didn't move his hand down. And when I glanced around, everyone else in the restaurant had stopped eating again. They were all looking straight at us, silent, unmoving, like they were waiting for us to choose. "Maybe Jamie is back there," Marcus whispered. Something about the way he said it made my stomach drop. Because he didn't sound hopeful. He sounded like he already knew something was wrong. We walked toward the hallway. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the floor didn't want us moving. At the entrance to the hallway, the smell changed. It didn't smell like fries or old soda. It smelled like wet concrete after a storm. The buzzing of the neon sign outside faded, and in its place came a soft tapping sound from inside the bathroom, a slow, steady tap, like someone drumming a single finger on the sink. Marcus swallowed. That wasn't happening before, right?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. We got closer. The bathroom door was cracked open just an inch. A faint glow came from inside, like the awful white-green light of an old TV screen. The tapping stopped. For one whole second, everything was silent. Then something on the other side of the door dragged across the tiles, slow scraping, like a shoe or something else. The door creaked open wider. And what we saw next made both of us step back so fast that I almost fell, because standing inside the bathroom was Jamie. But he wasn't standing the way a person stands. And his shadow on the floor was not his own. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Jamie stood in the bathroom doorway, but his body looked stiff, like every part of him had been put in the wrong place, and someone tried to fix it without knowing how. His neck tilted just a little too far. His arms hung too straight. And his shadow didn't match him at all. It stretched sideways on the floor, long and thin, like someone else was standing beside him, someone we couldn't see. "Jamie," Marcus whispered. Jamie didn't answer. He didn't blink. He didn't even look at us. His eyes stared right over our shoulders, like he was watching something behind us. I felt the hairs on my neck rise. I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to see what he was looking at. The bathroom lights flickered again, that strange greenish glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Each time the light blinked, Jamie's shadow twitched on the floor, not his body, just the shadow. It curled toward us like fingers tapping the tiles. "We need to back up," I whispered. But when we stepped away, Jamie took one step forward, slow and heavy, like his feet weighed 100 pounds. His shoes scraped the floor in short, dragging sounds. "That's not him," Marcus choked. "It's not him anymore." I knew he was right. Everything inside me told me to run, but the hallway behind us suddenly darkened, almost as if the lights decided they didn't want to help us anymore. The restaurant felt far away. Too far. Like this hallway was stretching longer and darker every second. Jamie stepped out of the bathroom completely. The strange shadow followed like a second body glued to the floor. His mouth opened slightly, but the sound that came out wasn't a voice. It was a soft static, like the hiss of an untuned radio. The same sound we'd heard from the drive-through speaker. Then, from deep inside the bathroom, came a whisper. "Return him." The words slithered out like air leaking through a pipe. Jamie's shadow stretched toward us again, sliding over the tiles, thin and sharp. Marcus grabbed my wrist. "We can't stay here." We spun around and ran back into the main dining room, but the restaurant didn't look the same anymore. The tables were gone. Every chair was pushed against the walls. The windows were covered with something dark, like plastic sheets that weren't there before. And in the middle of the room stood Mr. Heller, the manager. Only he wasn't smiling now. His eyes were wide open, too wide, and his hands hung at his sides like wires. All the customers who had been eating before were gone. Every single one. The whole room felt hollow, like a place after closing time. The clown mascot poster on the wall had changed again. Its painted smile stretched larger, showing too many white teeth. Its eyes were both open now, wide open. Mr. Heller lifted one shaky arm and pointed at us. "Table 3, he said softly, but his mouth didn't move. The sound came from the ceiling speakers above us. "Your order is ready." The kitchen door swung open by itself, banging against the wall. A cold draft rolled out, carrying the same wet concrete smell we noticed in the hallway. And then, slowly, something stepped out. Not Jamie. Not a worker. Not anyone human. A figure shaped like a person but made entirely of that same thick shadow we saw in the bathroom began walking toward us. Silent, steady, its shoulders bending in ways real shoulders couldn't. Marcus squeezed my arm, shaking. "We have to get out. Now." But the doors were sealed, the windows covered, and the shadow figure was already crossing the floor, its steps spreading ripples of darkness under its feet. We backed up until our shoulders pressed against the wall. The lights buzzed. The speakers crackled. And then the shadow figure stopped just a few feet from us and raised one long, dripping black hand.